Okay, hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Know Your Gear QA Live 226. Hope everyone had a good weekend. And I had a good weekend. It was nice. It was kind of funny just now starting. I was looking at the monitor, but I was looking at the wrong one because it's the one that's on a delay. So I was like, looking at it just wasn't lining up, so threw me off, I should say. Hope everyone is like I said, ready for some guitar stuff. We'll talk about some guitars for sure. And what else do I got? Anything? I don't think I have any announcements or anything crazy to talk about. We definitely have some questions and stuff and some comments. And as always, when we start the show, if you're new, please just put a question mark at the beginning if it's directed towards me. That way I can see it. If you want to super chat, you can super chat. I try to get to all the super chats every episode. And if you're listening to it on a podcast, just sit back and enjoy. And if you're watching the rebroadcast and you want to look at particular subjects, I timestamp the subjects that we talk about. So, and now we have pod clips, which are clips of the show. I like the pod clips. I think they did pretty good. I can't say they did great. Can't say they did bad, but they did really good. And overall, I think it went well. So we'll keep it up. My guess is that for a while you're going to be seeing a lot of pod clips get filtered in throughout the week because I'm going through back catalogs right now to pull all the pod clips forward, and then eventually we'll be all caught up. So there'll be like one or maybe two pod clips a week. Right now, I think I'm trying to do 2 or 3 a week to add on to the normal disbursement of videos. So, as always, I come and grab all the early risers. I guess that's what we'll call them, right? The early birds. The people who came to the show before the show went live to ask a question or make a comment. And so the first one was Edgar. Edgar says, Phil, looking to add a Gibson Les Paul with P90s to my collection. Looking at a Gibson Les Paul 60s tribute. There are some coming out of the demo shop. So he's talking about the demo shop. If you don't know, I'm sure most of you know this, but if you don't know, Gibson has a demo shop on Reverb. So does ESP and Musicman. So you know, there's a few others popping up left and right. So you can check those out. If you want to find them on Reverb, there's a ton of ways, but a really easy way if you're new to this is just go to your search on your internet, Google, whatever, and under the search, type in like Gibson Reverb Shop or Musicman Reverb Shop, and it'll pull up, not Reverb, don't go to the Reverb because it'll pull up Reverb, but it'll pull up their actual shop and click on it and it'll take you into Reverb. And once you're there, you can save it and store it, or you can look at it through Reverb as well, but either way, it gets you there. So back to Edgar, who's looking at a Les Paul 60s tribute from the demo shop that won't be there because right now somebody's looking at it right now. He says, he wants to know if I think it's a good option. I had the 50s tribute P90 that I bought from Sam Ash when I did the What Guitar Would I Buy for $500. So obviously, I think that's a great guitar. I bought that guitar for $400, and I think I sold it for $8. No, maybe it was $7. I remember it was going for like $900 to $1,000 because it was about 2 years after I bought it. They'd gone up that much. They had doubled. When I bought it, I always say this over and over again. When I bought it in that video, I paid $4. The going price for that guitar was about $5. So $100 off was a score on the deal. They had it for $4. That was a little cheaper. You could probably find one for $450, but most of the time they're going for about $5 then. So $400 was a score, but it doubled. So like 2 years later when I was like, I got a couple Les Pauls. This one's great, but I'm going to double my money and call it a day. So because I did it for the video. Like I said, a lot of times when I'm buying stuff for the videos, once it serves its purpose, once I've made the content, everybody seems like they enjoyed it. We go on to the next thing. I don't really need to keep it around. So, but I really did like that guitar. In fact, I would have liked it probably more if it was a 60s tribute. Even though I like 50s and 60s for different reason, but for that guitar, for some reason, 60s tribute. Also, I should point out, that also led me, it's in the frame right now. I have an SG with P90s, and that's kind of what I was going for. When I bought that, I didn't want a Les Paul with P90s. They're great, but I didn't want one. I wanted an SG with P90s. And the main reason was my friend Matt, who's my guitar teacher, he bought one, a P90 SG. This is years ago. And I picked it up, played it one day. He had it laying around. I picked it up and played it. I just fell in love with it. So So maybe 5 years later, I came across another one, and now I have one. Daniel's question or comment is, hey, Phil, what are your thoughts on master volume amps? I prefer them over the non-master volume amps. Do you have any higher wattage amps with master volumes that you like for home use? Well, the answer is going to be yes, because almost every amp I have, I only have, I'm trying to think, I'm looking. Technically, I think the only three, I'm looking, I'm counting all the amps. 1, 2, 3. So I have a Fender 5E3 circuit amp, tweed amp, that doesn't technically have a master volume. So that one kinda. I have a Marshall 2061, which is like a 20 watt plexi head that has no master volume. You have to crank the thing. And then I have a car, Mercury 16, and it kind of has a master volume. It's kind of an odd duck amp, so I would put it in that kind of category. And then I have a 1987X Plexi that doesn't have a master volume, and that's the loudest of all those by far because it's 50 watts. It's unbearably, psychotically stupid loud. And that's it. And so your question was, let's go back to your question. We're just rattling off amps. Your question was, what are my thoughts on non-master volume? Or no, he wanted to know about master volume amps. That's what's confusing me about this. So he says, what are my thoughts on the master volume amps? Do you have any high wattage amps with the master volume? So that clears up that I only have a couple that don't have a master volume. And so almost all my amps have most master volumes. I have a bunch of amps that are 50 watts. I don't think I have, I'm looking right now, I don't think I have a single amp that's over 50 watts. I have no need for that. So I have a couple 50 watts, mostly they're 30s and 25s. They all work fine. Like I said, the only amp that I, that's loud that I play with that doesn't have master volume is that 2061 Marshall 20 watt. And the Plexi is not going to stay. I've kind of filtered that out. If you guys watch the Pedal Pal video, I've kind of alluded that I got rid of my JC 100 for their Pedal Pal 800. I got rid of the Silver Jubilee basically because they're nitrane, and I'm pretty much thinking about ditching the Plexi to keep their Plexi. I'll keep the 2061 though, if you're not familiar. They don't make them anymore, but it's like I said, the best way to think of it is like a 20 watt Plexi style amp. But to answer your question, yeah, I have a lot of hotter, well, if you consider 50 watts higher wattage, I have a higher wattage master volume amps. The only thing is my rig is really set up for YouTube. So in other words, like I have a strange rig, and I keep thinking about maybe doing a video about it. Because I know the question, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but then the question I get a lot is like, when you guys see my amp rack, my rack of amps, is it all set up to where I can switch and plug and play? I don't have it set up that way. I don't want it set up that way. I do that on purpose. In fact, so some of you guys, some of the viewers out here have been so kind. They just reached out and they're like, I have an amp switcher. You want it? And so I mean, I don't want to. That's not how I use that rack by any means. The way I run my rig, and again, I kind of hate saying it because I think it might sound confusing. So I essentially run it. I pick an amp that I'm into at that time. I'll definitely, if you guys are interested, I'll do a video. But I pick an amp that I'm into, and then what happens is I have it. It goes into a Rivera Rock Crusher, and then out of that, it depends on my mood. It can go into the aux or it can go into the cab M by 2 notes. But either way, it has a line to simulation, and so this is why I said it gets a little tricky. So it goes out of the amp into the Rock Crusher. There's a reason why it does that. The Rock Crusher then divides it up into a cabinet. I have a 212 cabinet, and then I have another line out of the Rock Crusher that will go into either the aux, because this is what I use, or the 2 notes cab M, which simulates. I use those both for the same reason, depending on what I'm using. They simulate the room and all the effects, and then that goes into an FRFR cabinet. And the reason I do that is because I know, again, that's why I said a lot of you are going to say it's confusing because I'm mentioning 2 kind of power attenuators. But the reason is because it's designed so that whatever amp I'm in the mood to play, I can play at loud volumes, quiet volumes, or literally I can flip a switch, so to speak, and the amp just goes right through the FRFR, which is really, really quiet because I'm running it. It's a solid state power amp. Maybe it's digital, but either way, it's not tube. sounds convoluted, but I've been on that rig for so long now and it works so good that it's what I use. And then in the bedroom, I just use a small amp. I pick an amp and I have in rotation a smaller tube amp or a solid state amp, depending on my mood, and I just use that in there. So I don't even know if I hit that question. I got so down that path. Anyways, next one is from Nick, who says, Phil, I just found a super nice Gen 1 PV Valve King 212 for $220. And this week, any thoughts on the first gen? I'm not really familiar, like the first gen and the different iterations of the Valve Kings. I owned the Valve King, but the only Valve King I personally owned was the 20-watt micro head unit. You know what I mean? I ended up buying the Valve King. I bought the 6505 Mini, and then I bought the Classic 20. And for me, I ended up liking the Classic 20 the best. That was my favorite of the three, for whatever reason. But it wasn't because I disliked the other two. I just liked that one the best. So the Valve King's cool. I have friends that swear by the Valve King stuff. I mean, it's really cool. But I don't know anything about like the generations, what they changed. You know, is that maybe that one's made in the USA and then later they go to China or something like that? I just don't know. So, but I can give you I like the Valve King amps. So definitely worth checking out. And for $220, it's a good amp. Jeremy wants to know, thanks for all your hard work. My Schecter Jack Fowler, can do a magical second and fourth position. Okay. With an humbucker and only a three-way switch. Sure. Okay. Can you explain how this works? Or is it just a miracle? Okay, so let's get into what Jeremy's... Is it Jeremy? Yeah, Jeremy. What Jeremy's saying. Jeremy's saying he has a guitar. It's a Schecter, but it's got two humbuckers. And so what he's saying is that even though he's got two humbuckers and only a three-way switch, he can get on a Stratocaster, the 2 and 4 position. In other words, the kind of bridge and middle and neck kind of positions. Okay. So he wants to know if that's weird that it can do that, or it's a magic, or how is it done? And this is my guess. There's a ton of ways to do stuff like that. But if I was going to imagine what I'm going to see underneath the hood, so to speak, on that guitar, it's wired exactly like my copper Strat is wired. My copper Strat's not here. It's not. It's something's coming with the copper Strat that maybe. I always tell you guys I hate talking about the stuff on the podcast because then it doesn't happen. But let's just say the copper Strat is somewhere, and then it may come back, and if it does, it'll go away again. I don't know how to explain it, but what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is it's wired the same way. So what that is, most likely they're probably using what they call a super switch. It's a three-way blade switch is what I got. You said three-way switch. It could be a toggle too. They can use a 6-pin or a 12-pin toggle switch. I'm just telling you what to look for. On top, they look the same. The blade switch would look the same. The toggle switch would look the same. But underneath, like I said, when you look in the cavity, instead of having typical stuff, you'll have a lot more tabs, in other words, on the switches that allow them to do different things. So the way it would be wired, the way mine's wired, is in the first position of the switch, you're in a humbucker. When you go to the center, you go to the inner coils of the bridge and the neck. So it's two single coils, and it's exactly like a Strat, except for instead of the middle and fourth or middle and first, it's just those two inner coils. And then when you go to the third position on it, it will go back to a neck humbucker. And then on mine, I have a little switch that allows me to coil split just the neck if I just want the neck. So my copper Strat is wired up so I have essentially the bridge humbucker tone, the two inner single coil tone, the neck humbucker tone, or just the neck single coil. That's how I have mine wired up. My guess is that's how it's kind of wired up like that. So it's not magic, it's just wiring. If you took a picture of it, I'm sure we could figure it out even faster what it is that they're doing. So that'd be my guess. Like I said, there's if you have multi-tab switches, like I said, sometimes referred to as super switches when they're blades, or like I said, a 12-pin or 6-pin, even have a 9-pin three-way switch. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. just with the, how you wire it up. This one is one I grabbed. I really liked it. It's Mars 1, and he says, "Hey, Phil, is it okay to mix different pickups from different companies? So that's a great question because I think, you know, a lot of us are like, of course you can, but sometimes you're like weirded out by that idea. To me, there's a ton of famous guitars like that. Jakey Lee's Charvel is a mix and match. It's got one DiMarzio and one Seymour Duncan. You know, so yeah, you can mix them. The real common, of course, you see that in Fenders a lot. You know, they'll put a humbucker or a mini humbucker in the bridge, and then of course you'll have the two single coils from the Fender brand. So they're mixing, you know, Seymour Duncan or in DiMarzio with single coils from Fender. You totally can, not a problem. The only thing you have to pay attention to is the polarity, you know, right? So basically, sometimes you just it's simple as hell. Sometimes when you're in inner position, so to speak, you'll get this phase cancellation, kind of weird nasal kind of sound, as like I put it. And some people like that, don't like that. So you just have to swap wires. That's a long way to tell you that you can mix and match brands all you like, but sometimes because the way I have to visualize is this. Think of a single coil. I want you all go with me on this. I want you to picture a single coil in your head pickup. And in your mind, what you see is a black and a white wire coming off of it, and the black is ground and the white is hot. That's what you see. That's not what's really happening. What's really happening is that's one wire. A single coil pickup is one wire, right? In other words, it has a start point on one lug, and then we wrap it. And then when we're done wrapping it, we solder it to the other lug. And then we solder two wires off it, and we say, one's ground, which is really the end, right, of the wire, right? It's basically picture the wire like a big U. It's not like I said, it's not two wires. So a pickup is just one wire. The reason that's important is that you can solder, like for instance, if you put, that's why it will work either way. If you guys notice, sometimes some people mess it up. I'll open up a guitar and they put the ground wire to the hot and the hot wire, you know, to the ground. Well, it'll still work. It'll just, it'll have troubles when you're in middle positions with other pickups. It'll have a real phase sound, an out of phase sound. So then we swap the wires. So basically, I'm trying to find the name again. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Mars One. So basically, that's what's great about pickups and stuff is that you wire them in. If they sound weird, probably flip the wires, and 90% of the time you'll be fine. So that's the only thing you have to worry about if you're mixing brands. Sometimes you have to change the wires because not everyone picks the same side of the wire, and that sounds weird the way I'm saying it, but you understand what I'm saying. Some people consider the end of the wire the ground and the beginning of the wire hot, and some companies will call the end of the wire hot and the beginning of the wire ground. Does that make sense? And but you have to follow suit with that formula. Is basically it. Again, it's kind of sometimes it's tough on the podcast when there's no visual aids or anything, but I think most of you probably got that at the very least. At least you all know that a pickup now is only one wire. I always find every time I've said that, I find that every time there's someone in the room that goes, didn't seem to know that. Let's see. Next is, this is a great one. This is from Adrian, who wanted to say, hey, Phil, what's your general opinion of Supro guitars? And have I owned one? I've never owned a Supro guitar. I've owned a couple Supro amps, and I ended up buying 3 Supro amps, and I did videos of 2 of them, and I ended up with the wrong one. I liked them all, but I really liked the first one the best. And so really like Supros. I don't know why I don't own a Supro today. It's like one of those things, you know, like I said, you know, I was probably funding it, some other video or doing something with it, and then I let it go. And Supro guitars I've never owned, but I played a few. They were designed by Trev Wilkinson from Wilkinson Bridges and Pickups and stuff like that. Trev not only designed those, but he designed Italia guitars and, of course, vintage guitars and Fret King. Those are all designed by Trev Wilkinson. So, you know, cool guitars, just never owned one. Don't know why, never get on the Supro radar as a channel, but, you know, would totally review their stuff. Like I said, most of the Supro stuff I've ever played has been fantastic. So that's my answer for that. So there you go. Maybe I'll reach out to them again. I don't know. I think I've tried once. I don't remember. Like I said, cool guys, cool company, just never worked with them. What else? This one from R Habs. R Habs, and I'll get to super chats in a second, guys. R Habs says, "Hey Phil, many reverb sellers have recently not been willing to ship." And what he's talking about is, how you click on a tab on Reverb, or you see it before you click on it, and it says local pickup only. You're seeing more and more and more of that. Is what he's saying. So he's saying he's seeing that trend. I am seeing that trend too. And when I say trend, I mean, it's always been that way. There's always been people who put out a listing on Reverb but won't ship. But I feel like what he's saying is true. More and more by month, there's more of those. I used to see them, and now I stumble across one like every fifth listing that says won't ship. And so the core of his question is that he wants to know what my thoughts on that is, kind of like insight. Do I have any insight on that? Well, I think it might be as obvious as what we kind of all know, which is shipping rates have got out of control. If you haven't noticed, everybody wants $120 basically now to ship a guitar, and if it's an expensive guitar, everyone wants $200 to ship a guitar. I unfortunately, when I do, my wife does all the shipping here, so I don't see what the prices are, but I've heard her tell me that they have been going up considerably for the last year or so. We have a business account, so, with shipping. So, even with the business account, the rates have been getting a little hot. And I would imagine that's it. And also, hey, let me tell you, the returns are probably high. So a lot of people are probably getting stuff and returning it. And people are probably getting burnt out on that, so it's tough. I would imagine if you were not cash fluid, Reverb is becoming a more of a financial pain in the ass proposition. The first thing is you got to ship the product, which still makes me nervous. I mean, I trust Reverb. I have no reason to not trust Reverb. The company, but it makes me nervous. It does. It makes me nervous when, hold on a second, let me go back. It makes me nervous when I got to ship somebody something and I still haven't been paid for it. And then after you ship it, that's when you get the little thing from Reverb going, okay, cool, now we processed your payment. But even then you don't see it for a day or two. And so think about this. And then so what happens is, and then a couple days later, well, maybe say a day or two later, you get the money, and then they get their product to 2-3 days after that. And then if they email you and say, hey, I something's wrong, I don't want it. It's a process. So maybe people are just getting sick of it and they want to do, that's why we thought, look, a lot of us thought Craigslist was going to be the winner in all this. They thought, it's too easy. You don't have to ship stuff. You can just meet up and stuff. But, there's obviously Craigslist is limited, right? It doesn't have the scope that Reverb has. It doesn't have the searchability that Reverb has. It just doesn't have all the stuff that Reverb has. So I don't know. But back to your core of your question, which is, my thoughts. My thoughts are exactly that. It's probably a hassle. They don't want to do it. So that's why they're saying local pickup. Years ago, I can't say when, I can't say if it was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, but it was sometime I stopped. In other words, I used to reach out to people who would say local pickup only if I wanted it. And I'd say, hey, if I pay the shipping, will you take it to a UPS store and just have it packed and shipped? And always the answer was yes. You know what I mean? Because you just say, hey, look, just take it to a UPS store. Because, I'm aware of it at that point. I'm like, I know it's going to cost. You know what I mean? Just take it there because I really want it. And usually, as you guys know, anybody who's saying local pickup, they usually have the price set a little lower to somebody else. So you can kind of eat some of that shipping when you want to buy it. But I kind of stopped doing that in the last few years. And the reason is because, again, like you were saying, a lot more people doing local, and it really seems like they just, it used to be most time when they were doing it, when they weren't shipping and they wanted locals because they didn't have a box. I think now it's just, they just don't want to. So yeah, Michael's saying returns, damages, and scams, local pickup only. Of course, it's been a mess. Like you, if you sold, I don't even sell very much on Reverb. Isn't that funny? I don't sell very much on Reverb, and even not selling very much, I've had every scam you can think of in just the last couple of years. Every single one. Like you guys said, I've had the one where they said it was damaged, and then I refunded it and they sent it back, and it got it back and it was in perfect condition. So I was like, okay. You just, and then I've got it where, you know all the scenarios. I think I've had every scenario hit me with that. Or they got it and they said, hey, it got damaged and they want a discount now. Whatever scenario. I usually just, work with them the best I can. What can you do? So, JJG says, did I ever try Panama amps? I have tried Panama amps. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure there's a video of me demoing or reviewing a Panama amp. Here's what I know about Panama amps, if this helps. Panama Amps was one of the very first companies to ever reach out to me on YouTube. I was a very new YouTuber, had no idea, what YouTube even was at that point. I thought it did, but it didn't. And they reached out to me, and I remember the shock I had when they said, we'd like you to send you all of the Panama amps. I'm not kidding. They were like, we want to send them all to you and to do videos with. And I was like, you're kidding. Like, I was like, great. They like give them to me. They was going to give them to me. And I was like, wow. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So what happened was it was the owner. I'm pretty sure I was talking to the owner. Could have been the owner's wife. And I said, I picked out one based on a bunch of YouTube reviews that I thought sounded cool. And I go, yeah, send me that one. And then once I get it, if I like it, I'll keep it. And if not, I'll send it back. And then you can send me another one, and we can keep going until I find the one I like, right? And they sent me that one, and it sounded pretty bad. I did a review, which was not a good one. It wasn't, I didn't give it, I mean, I didn't pound on it and say anything. It wasn't horrible. Obviously, it's just an amp, but I didn't give it a good review. And although I will say this, my buddy played the amp the day after I did the review, after he watched my review, and I'll never forget this. He played it, and he said, that sounds like dog shit. And then I said, no, it's not that bad. He goes, it sounded way better in your video than it did in real life. He goes, this thing sounds horrible. And I remember thinking like, it was not bad, because it was just not bad. But I remember, like I said, whatever I said in the video, it wasn't a good review. Here's why I say that. Whatever I did, it pissed off the Panama people, because not only did they not want to talk to me ever again, ever. They've never talked to me ever again. Definitely weren't sending out any more amps. They didn't ask for the other amp back. Yes. And then what I remember was, it was right after that. It could have been just coinkadink, so to speak. But I felt like more and more YouTubers started jumping on the, hey, these aren't that great bandwagon. And then all of a sudden they went away as a, not, they didn't go out of business, but you didn't see them on every YouTube video like you did for a while. And so, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me and my channel, which is what I learned from that was, one, what I had in store for me, grief. But also what I learned from that was, at that time, one, I didn't know people were sending free gear. So now you guys all know. When I started 5, 6 years ago, no, you kind of saw it a couple times. You didn't realize that the game at the level it was at then, much less now. And that's why I love it when everybody's like, oh, people do it for free gear. And I'm like, free gear is like 5 years ago. Most people are just getting paid outright, you know what I mean, for the stuff. And again, it's a business. That's all business, like I said. But the point of it is that I remember just thinking like, how am I going to navigate this? You know what I mean? Because it sounded so easy. And that's where I'm trying to go with this. I'm not going where you guys think I'm going. Like a corruption of the industry. None of that stuff. It was all fun stuff. What happened was, that was my first realization that people are going to send me stuff that I don't like or that I don't think is good. And what am I going to do? And a lot of channels will tell you they don't review anything they don't like. I probably have said that somewhere. You know what I mean? It's a cop-out answer. I've definitely done it. I mean, I don't remember doing it, but I'm sure I've done it, especially early on. Somebody might ask me like, hey, do you ever review this? I'm like, oh, I don't review stuff I don't like. It's a nice way to deflect that you just don't want to get into a subject you don't want to get into. In other words, I don't want to talk about every single piece of gear. I mean, we go on forever. I usually just want to highlight the stuff I'm interested in or I think you guys are interested in. But the point of that is, I do actually review stuff I'm not too fond of all the time. And I say exactly that it's okay. You know what I mean? I find what I think is interesting about it. I tell you guys what I think I don't like about it or what's not interesting about it. But the reason that all matters to me is, that's the day, I don't want to say the day, That's the day I had the epiphany. That's the day I realized there's a difference between a demo and a review. Everyone says a demo and review is different, but this is what's really important to me for a demo and a review. A review has a demonstration in it, so obviously reviews are partially demos, but a demonstration is just you highlighting what's good about the product. That's a demonstration to me. You show the product, you play the product, if it's a musical instrument, of course, and then you tell everybody what is interesting about the product, what you like about the product, and of course, features of the product. That's a demonstration. A review always involves those things and then the counter arguments. This is what I like and this is what I don't like. This is what's interesting about it and this is what the drawbacks are. A review is essentially a critique and what you would find useful if you were there and you couldn't touch this, if you were there and you wanted to see it, touch it. So that's why I kind of tell everybody that my channel is more review-based and less demonstration-based. And what I will tell you is that I won't do anymore, which I stopped, and I can't tell you when. I used to, when I did a review, I felt this need to go, if I said a nice thing, I got to say a negative thing, and then that way people will think it's unbiased and honest. You know what I mean? And then what I realized one day was, no, that's not being unbiased and honest. That's literally looking for something. So I don't look for things anymore that are positive or negative. I just kind of say what I'm interested in, what I like about it, what the issue is, and then move on my way. But that's kind of the way I look at it. You know what I mean? So that's a long way to tell you what I think of Panama amps. Okay. What else? What do we need to do? We need to hit some of these questions. Let me go. I got to tell you, let me go here. Let me refresh this. I was just looking at my cup. It's the moderator cup. I have a moderator cup. Oh, that's right. Okay. So if you're a moderator and you have a moderator cup, I have a moderator cup too, but I have one because this is the first one my wife ever did, and there's a blim. I don't know how to, there it is. There's a blim right there in the lettering or something. So I have the blim cup. That's the perk of working at Know Your Gear. You get secondhand merchandise. That's what. All right, that's my perks. We have Greg's question was, hey, Phil, what's your opinion on getting a good clean sound? Should the volume be controlled by the amp or more by the guitar? That's a great question. Good clean sound is going to be that's a tough one to say because everybody's going to have different definitions of what they think a good clean sound is. I'll tell you what I go for when I go for a clean sound. I like to actually not run a lot of people will turn the gain down on the clean channel and then run the volume high. I don't do that. I actually run the gain as high as I think I can get it because I find that it gives the notes a better attack and more sustain if you're pushing the amp signal a little harder or as hard as you can. And then what I do is I almost always have my volume control on my guitar quarter turn back. It's very typical for me to run it that way immediately. Like see I hook my little pinky like that. I literally have my pinky hooked, and I'm constantly doing that to the volume control. And Jeff Beck does that, I heard, and I kept a couple other artists, and of course they got that from me. Anyways, no, seriously, just something intuitively I do. I like to have just the volume cocked back just a quarter, and then I turn it all the way full if I need it for some reason. I try not to do that in videos. Sometimes I've accidentally done it and stuff, but most of the time not. 99% of the time I don't do it in a video because I know I'm demoing something for you guys, and I need you guys want to hear it so as accurate as possible and not with any kind of manipulation from the volume controls and stuff. But that's how I do it, and the volume for clean. And then we have Michael Nibber said nothing. He just did a huge super chat for 10. He bought a keg. He didn't buy me a beer. He bought me a whole keg. I don't even know. Can you buy a keg for $50 now? It's probably not. Anyone buy a keg? You could buy a pony keg probably $50, right? So anyways, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I thought I saw where you said hi, and then you said he had a question. I didn't see it. I looked for it. I scanned because he did that right before the show. And Michael, hold on a second. And So Michael, if you don't super chat again, obviously, but if you could put that question again, I'll look for it. Whatever your question was, other than to say hi and give me money to buy a pony cake. I appreciate that. It'll be a nice, long drinking day. So we have next. No, we have Greg. Wouldn't it be funny if one of the sign-ons was next? It would make a lot of sense that way. We have Andy. I was wrong. It wasn't Greg. It's Andy. Andy says, what's the story with how and why you acquired the chrome blue Strat, which was used in a recent video? I have one that's similar. Yeah, I don't have that. Oh, I do. Yeah. So if you're looking, that's what he's calling chrome blue. It's a very shiny metallic blue Stratocaster right there behind me. If you're listening, I'm pointing at a blue Strat. That's all you need to know. I don't know what video. Oh, I was using it in the new Bad Cat video for sure. And then also it was in my guitar collection video. And so if you're asking me what's the story on how and why I acquired it? Well, I acquired it because it was in my store, and somebody went to, I don't know if they were wanted to try that guitar to buy it, or they were trying the amp. What they did is they picked the guitar up off the wall, walked over to an amp, plugged in the amp. I think they probably forgot a pick or something. They leaned the guitar facing forward on the amp. Okay, so in other words, you know how you lean the guitar on an amp, and then they went somewhere. They went to get a pick or something, and the guitar fell over. And when it fell over, it hit the corner of something was there. I don't know if it was an amp or whatever it hit, but whatever it hit, it put two like line cuts, like dents into the side of the neck. And, so that happens. So obviously we discounted it. They didn't buy it. They didn't want a damaged guitar. They didn't come in the store to damage a guitar to buy a damaged guitar, right? What's that? Adam Sandler, Big Daddy or whatever, when he's denting the cans to get a discount. Like, yeah. But no, they didn't dent the guitar for a discount. So the guitar got discounted to cost, because that's pretty much what we had to eat. No one really will pay us much more than that. Sometimes you're lucky if you can get the cost out of it when you get a guitar gets damaged in a store, because you're running on a 35% margin. People expect to pay half if it's damaged. So I mean, it's tough. But what ended up happening was I kept playing it. And I don't remember physically getting mad about it. I don't, but it was definitely eating at me, this idea that this guitar sounded and played so great that I was like, man, this sucks that we're going to have to just lose money on this thing, right? I'm like, it's such a good guitar. And then I don't know what it was, just like after, I mean, it wasn't days, it was like weeks of playing this thing. I finally said, I'm going to buy this. Why don't I just buy this? So that's how I have that guitar. And the dents aren't fixed, even though I have a video on how to get the dents out. And I teach you guys how to do it, and I do it all the time. I won't fix that guitar. I don't know what it is. It's fine the way it is. Just dents and all. And you can feel the dents. It's not like sometimes where the dents are on a spot in the neck where you can't, your hand doesn't touch it. Nope. I come across it every once in a while, and it's just fine. I don't know. Just I like it the way it is. So that's one. And then I think deep down it's because kind of like a relic guitar. It's just this guitar I don't have to worry about. So I'll literally take it everywhere and I lean it on things and stuff. It's kind of liberating. I think that's when people tell me they really like relic guitars, that reason, I can totally understand. There's something very liberating about not giving a crap about your guitar. So there you go. Okay, what else? What else do we have to talk about? We have Matthew. What does Matthew want to talk about? Matthew wants to talk about, says, on his Made in Mexico Strat, the only original part left is the body. Okay. He says, it's the guitar of my dreams. You gave me gas. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the accolade to me. That's really cool. Man, you know what? We all know parts casters are the best. They're the best. It's my blue Strat that I'm just talking about, it's basically a parts caster. I mean, the neck and the body is the only thing that was on that guitar originally. Everything after that have been replaced. Like I said, I replaced the pickups, electronics, output jack, pick guard, the bridge has been replaced. The tuning keys are replaced. So yeah, it's just the original neck and body, and it's just something cool about that. Really cool. Matthew's got another question. He'll follow up. He says, my question is, you said once, okay, your Godin plays like a Strat, sounds like a Les Paul, and it looks like a Telecaster. Could you elaborate on that and maybe show us? Show it to us and play it. Was it a Godin or was it this G&L? I don't have a Godin. I might have talked about Godins because I always talk about them. I just don't have one. I am on the market for one, and I have been looking for one, mostly because I want to review one again and talk about them. I really like those guitars and talking about them. But I think you're thinking of my G&L? I don't know, because that's what I think of. If somebody says, looks like a Telecaster, oh, you know what you could be thinking of? You're thinking of my Halo guitar. That's got to be it, because it's a Gibson scale length. It's a Tele body cut, but it says a Strat shape, and it's set up like a Gibson Les Paul. It's scaled. I already said that. That's a Halo. I have a video on that, so you can check that out and check out that guitar. And I think I said this, and I'll say it again on that Halo guitar. I had that guitar made because Halo was crazy enough to make it for me. They were cool guys. I think I don't know if I told the story, but I'll tell it right now because I like it. They reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we want you to, would you review a baritone, a Halo baritone?" And so I responded to them in kind and I said, "Look, man, I really appreciate it." Because they were very nice. They were like, "Hey, we'd like to send you a baritone. You can keep it. We just want you to do a video." And I responded very quickly and I said, "Look, love to do it, but I'm not a huge baritone fan. Nothing wrong with baritone guitars for all you guys that have baritones. I've owned a couple and they've always just collected dust for me. And, it's why I don't own a 12-string. It's just because it's a guitar that, like I said, when you see all these guitars, I know a lot of you are like, oh, you just look at them. If I don't use a guitar, it can't stay. It just makes me sad. It's like, imagine having people have a bunch of dogs. And I'm like, if you have too many dogs and you can't pet one of them sometimes, probably abuse, but also not the best. So same thing. If I can't get to a guitar and play it, then it's got to go. So baritones just don't make it very often with me because I'll use some kind of technology to simulate that. But anyway, so I said I wasn't interested. And what's funny about Halo was they said, okay, well, is there anything, you are interested in? And they sent me a list of guitars, or whatever, pictures of guitars. And they were all these different kind of metal looking guitars. And I was like, I'm not really interested in that. I said, but I hear good things about you guys. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time. And they said, well, why don't we just build you something? And what's funny was I was like, why? Why build it? And they were like, I don't know. We might as well just build you something. So we dreamed up that crazy guitar. And I said, oh, how about this? And they said, yeah, we'll do it. And they built it. And they don't sell it. I mean, you could get the specs and order it like a custom guitar, but it's not like one of their normal production style guitars. Nor do I think they make anything that's production wise like it. So it's kind of a weird thing to do, but cool guys, cool guitar. Joe wants to know, what does Joe want to know? Joe wants to know, hey Phil, any tips on setting up a proper string height on a compound radius Strat neck, 9.5 to 14, okay? Which radius should I use to set up the saddles? Sure. There's actually, and I tell you this for a disclaimer, if you Google it, there's actually like an actual mathematical way that you have to calculate it, and you can do it. Okay. I've read it. I think I tried it once. I don't remember. Here's what it is. It used to be compound radiuses were 12 to 14 was the average. And then Fender, I think, dabbled with 9.5 to 12. So those aren't very extreme. So to me, if you have a 12 to 14 inch radius or a 12 to 16 inch radius, I just set it up to the flattest. So I'll go, okay, if it's 14, I set it up for 14. 9.5 to 14, because it does get a little rounded towards the upper frets where, 1 through 5 especially, a little bit more rounded like 9.5. Yeah, and I actually still set it up to 14. So I'll set the bridge radius to 14, but then I start adjusting it just by kind of playing it. That's the fast and easy way to get away with it. Some players or some techs will tell you the opposite. Set it up for 9.5 because that's, it's easier for 9.5 to play on a 14. In other words, if you radius 9.5 and play it on a 14, it works great. If you radius the bridge at 14, really flat, and then where it's 9.5, it's going to be a little tricky. In my experience, that because here's the trick. You have to understand, everybody has a different way of doing the radius thing. And even though Fender is pretty consistent about theirs, 9.5 to 14-inch radius is like, it's like this cone, right? Like I said, you can see videos on how they explain it. Or this cone, how they do it. And to me, you have to think about what percentage of the neck is even 9.5 and what percentage of the neck is 14. So like I said, set the saddles. This is what I'm gonna do to keep it easy. This is what I do. Set it to 14 flat, and then make adjustments. That's it. Super easy. Shouldn't even be a problem. Okay. Gravedigger Dale says, haven't been able to catch a live show for a while. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Gravedigger Dale. I like it when I see your name because I feel like it's like a wrestling thing. Gravedigger Dale in the house wants to let you know to have a good weekend. He wants you all to know have a good weekend. And me too. David says, thoughts on Super V Blade Runner, okay, for Strat. Looking to upgrade my American Standard Trem. I have no idea what that is. I assume it's a bridge. Let me look. And if I find it, I will share it with you guys. Yep, it's a Super V Blade Tremolo. Super V Blade Runner. I've never heard of this. Let me show. Here you go. Now you can see. I found it on the old eBay here for $285. So essentially, is that a two-piece? Like I don't know what the hell this is. It's kind of vibes for a second like it's like a Vega Trem, but different. Never tried it. So don't know anything about it. Looks kind of like a Vega Trem. I'm trying to see where the hell. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So let's get back to his question. I don't know what the question was. The question was thoughts on the Super V. Never seen it, so all I've seen is what I just showed you. For upgrading an American Standard Tremolo. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried it, but it seemed expensive. I hope it's not like I found some random crazy price. Let me see. Oh, no, $250. I can't, obviously I can't recommend it. I've never tried it, but man, that seems like a lot for a bridge. The Vega trims are kind of pricey. They're really nice, but they're really pricey. That's even way more pricey. So that's a lot for a bridge, $250. So I don't know. I think there's better options out there. When I say better, I should take that back because, again, I haven't tried it. I think there's more priced affordable options you should look at if that's something, unless this is something you're diehard about. I understand that. If you're into sometimes you get it in your craw, you got to have it. Maybe that's what it is and you just go for it. But otherwise, I would look at some other bridge options. Godo bridges are great. Like I said, Vega trims are great. Those are the two I use the most, to be honest with you, those two. Audio Acrylics says, you ever get a string changed? You ever get that string changed? Oh, which guitar was broken string? Because I have many now. Currently, I have, what is it? One? I think I have two. I have two guitars with a broken string. So I think Audio, when we talked last, or we were talking on this show, I think I had one or maybe two. Now I have still two, but different two. So, no. Like I said, because I go to the shop and I think, oh, God, I better get on some of the stuff I got to get done. You know what I mean? It's like I said, it's hard to do your personal stuff. That's the one thing, when the thing you love doing is the thing you also do to make a living. It's hard to justify not making a living. You know what I mean? Like, my time costs me money and doing it for somebody else makes me money. So it's tough. Todd Tech says, thoughts on Duesenberg guitars? I've played a bunch. They're usually at Guitar Center. Thought I saw an earlier question about Duesenberg not being, somebody just said earlier, and I apologize if I got it, I didn't remember your name and I'm missing some of this information, but I glanced at it and it was talking about why don't you think you see Duesenberg guitars at maybe that was D'Angelico. So but anyways, it's smaller dealers. Duesenberg guitars. I picked them up. I played them. They seem really good. That's it. I have a Gretsch, and I like my Gretsch. So it's like one of those things, you know. This is where, like I said, I try to get as many guitars on the channel as possible. That way, when we have these conversations, you know, not only do I have the videos, but now that I have had the experience, I can kind of share with you and stuff. I've done some setups on Duesenbergs. I did 2 Duesenbergs setups and work on them in my life, and both of them were probably in 2010 to 2012. So it was years and years ago. But good stuff. I just don't know. I don't know enough about them to give any kind of resource information. Stupid Fingers says, hey there, Phil. You mentioned that you use an FR cab. Which one? I have 2 Headrush cabs. I have a 1.8 and a 1.12. And that's for a reason. I have different ones. And if you're looking at getting one, I would probably say the 1.8 is probably the better way to go, because it's obviously, you know, unless you're gigging. I use the 112. Why do I use that? I use that usually because I'm doing something stupid. I think it's stupid loud. But I like them. Everybody likes different ones. Some people like the Line 6 ones and stuff. I bought them because they were dirt cheap. And again, like I said, if I'm using them, it's usually that's what I said. Maybe one day, and I'm saying maybe because I don't know, 1, if anyone would want to watch it do it, but 2, I don't even know if I want to put the time into it. Talk about the rig that I use. The rig that I use, this rig that I was talking about, has to do with YouTube. It's what I'm trying to do is I want to hear exactly what you're going to hear when the video is done before I even record the video. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to everybody. That's what I'm up to. So the FR for me and all that stuff, it has to do with the fact that I'm trying to hear exactly, like studio monitors, but different. I'm trying to hear exactly what you're going to hear. And that way I can help figure out how to make it so that you're in the room. There's the mic rig that I use is pretty elaborate now too, which is you guys are probably noticing in the videos. A lot of people, I used to mic up the cabinet. If you notice, I don't talk about that anymore. I used to mic up the cabinet. I still do, but the cabinet's in a different room, and that room is mic'd as well. So what you're hearing now in the videos, especially the most recent ones, is when you're hearing the sound, you're hearing a very true sound. You're hearing an actual room, the actual amp or the guitar or the pedal in the room, and of course something off the speaker so it can, you know, balance out a little bit. And then I'm not in that room, so what I'm hearing is like an FSR speaker and some other stuff going on that's letting me know what you're going to hear, if that makes any sense. Like I said, it seems a little weird, but it seems to be working. I feel like I'm getting better capture of sound the way I'm doing this, in the idea that I feel like, you know, it's not that I, like I said, my goal is not to make stuff sound better than it is. I want you to hear exactly what it sounds like so that if you decide to buy it, you don't get it and go, what the hell was that? It doesn't sound anything like that. Armando says, remind me. Okay. Remember the time. Anyway, it says, how does it work to make a single coil attached to a 500K turn into a 250K without changing the pot? Have a great weekend. Push like. Remind you, so you're talking about it, you're talking about in like the video where I did that, we use a capacitor. So that's how we do it. That's how the Somni guitar is set up as well. Same concept. You can use a 500K. So you can use a 500K potentiometer and use a capacitor and basically kick it down to 250K or down to 25K. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, where when I've talked about in the past, I've never really gone into it this deep, but you understand that the reason why it's so easy, besides the fact that it's just easy as putting something in the line of that circuit, is that most potentiometers aren't what they say anyways. Very rarely, I don't think I've ever really played a 500K potentiometer. So, you know, not really. They're usually about 448. Okay, right? And then 250Ks, sometimes they're 220 or 180K. It depends on the pots. This is where it gets a little tricky. So, you know, I thought maybe this will be, you know, you guys can always let me know when we talk about stuff like this, if it ends up being like, sometimes these conversations end up being videos. Not testing the pots to see how they are. What's interesting to me is sometimes the alpha pots, which are basically cheaper potentiometers, cheaper price potentiometers, they get the closest to being the most accurate, right? So they're closer to being the 500K and 250K that we're saying. Where some of the nicer ones, they're a little even further off from those numbers. But I've said this many times, potentiometers to me are about two factors when it comes to quality. One, it's about how they feel, and two, it's about how long they last. A lot of people talk about their sound quality, but sound quality is a tough thing because everything in the guitar is essentially deductive. It's taking away from something. So it's really, it's really hard to argue, because even if it is taking away a lot of something, that sometimes sounds good too. Quicksilver says capacitor, don't you mean resistor? 470K is what I use on a 500K pot to C250. Yeah, resistor. I apologize. That's why I should not pay attention to what I'm reading and talk at the same time. Yes, and there's a couple ways to do it. I thought I had a video on that. I would have swore I had a video explaining that. See, where it gets tricky is, I've told you, I have a lot of videos now, but also I have a lot of videos that just haven't been released. Like I either filmed them and I just didn't finish editing them, or, sometimes I'll make a bunch of videos and then I put one out and it's not performing very well. And then I go, well, why put in the time to do the rest? That's why I try to finish a bunch of them now, so that if one doesn't do well, I just put out the rest anyways. But a lot of times that's what happens. I go, man, no one really cared about that video. So you guys know, when I say that, I just want to be clear. I keep saying this. It's not views I'm paying attention to. It's watch time. I could care less. If you guys, if I get lower views, that, it happens. That's YouTube. That's part of the deal. But lower views usually means lower watch time as well. In other words, people aren't interested in it, so not sharing it. So the algorithm's not pushing it. So no one else are seeing it. But that being said, that's what it is. If you guys aren't interested in it, I'm like, why make more of it? So, but maybe I'll put all those videos together and put them on the second channel. That's what we've been talking about doing, is finishing up editing a bunch of them. Anything I don't find that interesting, put on the Film Ignite 2 channel. Okay, next question. What are we doing? Next question? We're doing the next question. It's from Ian, who says, happy Friday. Can you daisy chain multiple boost pedals to increase a 20 watt for a practice situation? Oh man, no. Just sounds like it's going to be horrible. No, if you boost into boost into boost, it's just going to get flubbier and crappier and saturated, and it might have a sweet spot where at some point it's real chaotic and it just sounds great, and this nasty gnarliness of it. But for the most part, you're just going to have a mess. So no. Here's my suggestion for you. If you have a 20 watt amp in a practice situation, you're having trouble with it's not being loud enough, it's not loud enough for you, get it off on the ground, get it onto a chair, get it to where it could be as much in the face of everybody who needs it. That's going to do you better than anything else. You got to use it more like a monitor and point it at whatever it is you want, to hear it. That would probably do better than not only a boost pedal, but a bunch of boost pedals. Think about that. Or if it's a head combo situation, maybe using a bigger cabinet, physical size, more speakers, you'll get more volume, physical volume, not decibels, but you'll spread volume, spread more sound. So that's what I would suggest you do. Pablo says, I got a Jimmy Page wiring done on my Epiphone Les Paul. Now it won't stop buzzing. Humbucker feedback. Do you think it's a grounding issue or a shielding issue? Is this common? The Jimmy Page wiring is so popular. It's funny. You think that's something I'd commit to memory, but every time I do it, I do it the same way probably you guys are doing. I pull up a schematic online and I kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, I remember a little bit of that. And so there's a lot going on with 4 push-pulls and all that stuff going on. So there could be all kinds of stuff that's causing that buzzing. My guess is yes, you have a grounding issue somewhere, or something is not connected correctly. Something's kind of missing. So you know how to do this. If you wired that up, look, that's not a first time wiring kit, right? And if you guys want those kind of kits and don't want to wire them, 920D Customs, that company, they make them pre-wired, I think, and they're pretty good. So just a suggestion for those of you that want something like that but don't want to kind of wire it up yourself. You will pay the price though, man. It's wiring stuff, like all those pre-wired kits, you will save a crap ton if you just do it yourself. But like I always say, you can wash your car for free. The reason you take it to a wash sometimes because you don't want to do it, same thing. You know, it may cost more, but maybe you don't want to do it. But back to Pablo's problem, you definitely need to go through that thing and figure out what it is. I'm going to say if you're getting buzzing issues, it's not only something grounded incorrectly or not grounded at all. It doesn't sound like there's something being inverted, you know, right? Some signal crossed, but I'm trying to think what else is nasty in that kit. I mean, mostly it's going to be all that grounding. Also, like I said, you have to make sure because it doesn't take much for that stuff to get, you know, with those push-pulls for something to not be connected to cause a problem. So you got to just go through the circuit and just make sure you wired it correctly. So Lidve says, what Strat size bridge humbucker you recommend for someone who hates humbuckers? Okay. That's a great question. Hey, what do you suggest to someone who hates what you want to suggest? No, I'm just kidding. It says you suggested Thornbuckers, which was convincing but didn't fit. Need it for a sustainer. I need a high output. So you're saying, right, you can't fit a full-size humbucker in the Strat, and you need a mini humbucker, full-size Strat. I have a gazillion of them, Lidve, and trying them over the years, I have learned, for me, the DiMarzio ones are my favorites by far. You know, everybody's different, but let me tell you, and again, this is just, like I said, I like to admit my faults as much as anything else. I used to love those DiMarzio rail style humbuckers, the chopper, the fast track. I did. I liked them. To me, they sound like P90s. They got that P90 punch, very big, full sounding. They don't sound exactly like a humbucker, but they got they got some fullness to them. But I hated the way they looked. I hated the dual blade look. It looked so dated. And for some reason, I just stopped using them. And I went to Seymour Duncan and I started shoving Seymour Duncans in there because I thought they looked cooler because they have two little rows of slugs or screws, whatever. And over the years, forcing myself down that road, I realized I got to go back to the DiMarzio ones. There's certain things I like from DiMarzio, certain things I like Seymour Duncan, but the mini humbuckers from DiMarzio are my favorites. They're my favorite mini humbuckers, to the point where they're the only ones I use now. So there you go. Matthew Perkins says, Phil, thanks for all you do. My dad died recently and things like the podcast help life feel normal and more valuable than I can put words into. I appreciate you first giving me a thank you. And I'm really really sorry to hear that. Kind of catch you off guard. You know what I mean? That, yeah, I've lost both my parents, so I can totally relate to the situation. Both my parents kind of, in my opinion, died younger. It's tough, man. You know, unfortunately, I've lost a lot of people in my life, close family, friends, to the way too many, I think, than somebody should actually have to lose. I've lost a lot, just consistently, almost year after year, for a long time, for many years. And it doesn't get easier. And the only thing I can tell you is the part you already know is this. You're doing it, man. You find things to do. You continue. You honor their memories, and you continue. So I'm glad to hear my podcast helps you. I appreciate that. Believe it or not, man, that stuff, even though it's like kind of, it's horrible to hear these kind of stories. What's nice is this is the kind of reminder like, okay, yeah, do I want to do it this Friday? Yes, let's do it this Friday because of these comments, and centers me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Grumpy Mike Guitar will be next. He says, for the tone jar and why not, do you still have 2 Reverend guitars? Cheers. No, I had the USA one. I really liked it. That was my favorite of the 2, but had to sell it. That video, I'm going to tell you. Hold on a second. Let's pull it up. Why? I don't know why. Today is just one of those days I'm going to do stuff like this. Where's the Reverend? Oh, what? No, that can't be right. Let me look. So the Reverend guitar video, So I have, obviously I told you guys what we do is I take Patreon funds and I have money invested, and I take that money and I buy gear, and then I review it on the channel, and then I sell the gear and I churn the money back into, like, whatever I get for the gear, I put it back in that pot, and then I buy the next thing, and I kind of keep this money kind of churning kind of thing. And it's a little tricky because, like I said, sometimes, like right now I invested in some weird products. I bought some stuff that can't release the videos because, as you guys know, the last couple of videos and a lot of channels are having this problem. We're talking about products and you're like, I'm looking everywhere and they're sold out. So my point to this is the Reverend USA had to go. And even after selling it and after the video, just for fun, just to give you a reference, I don't know if you guys find this interesting. That video made $224.89. That's what I made on the video itself, profit-wise. But when I say that, I means after I paid $1,298.92 for that guitar, and I sold that guitar for the same price, but after fees and stuff, I got $1,070.51. And then I add the 224. So I am negative $3.52. So that video that took me 2 days, and I'm just going to, this is why I'm going to tell you guys this. That video took 2 full days. It wasn't any fault of the guitar or anything. Just sometimes videos are tricky and some audio clipped out or something happened. But either way, took like 6.5 hours the first day, and at least 6-7 hours the second day. So 2 full days of work. I have netted a complete negative $3.50. So yeah, I have another Reverend. I have no desire to review it because no one watched that video. And so I'm not bitter or anything. I'm just saying it's not a priority for me is what I'm trying to say. The other one I'll get to when I get to it, and I'll put it out when it goes out. But yeah, like I said, remember I told you about earlier about sometimes you make some videos and it's just like, you know what I mean? That was a lot of work to do for free. That was free. That was 2 days of work. I could have wound some pickups. I could have repaired some guitars. I should have caught up on some other things, or I should have made some other content. So I will get to it. But like I said, sometimes that stuff gets on the back burner because, like I said, there's other stuff I know you'll be interested in. You know what I mean? And I can focus on that, and it'll net the channel something, whether it's subscribers or, more watch time or sometimes money. That's also, part of the game too. But yes. And I like both Reverend guitars. There's no question about liking the Reverend guitars, so you know. Reverend guitars has no interest of ever putting a guitar on this channel. So I don't know why. They just didn't, right? And so, like I said, when companies don't want to send stuff to the channel, because that's their prerogative and that's their right, and sometimes it could be as easy as they don't want even, they either don't like the channel or they don't, they don't have to do it. Maybe they don't have resources, funds to do it. So when I'm doing it out of pocket, it's a little tough. So, all right, a Shinnery Kid. Says, I got a 594 made during the transition to Nitro. Is there an easy way to tell what kind of finish is on the guitar? Sure. Well, the fastest way on that guitar is I would take your thumb, wash your hands. It sounds like a joke, but it's important. You need clean hands. Take your thumb and rub the side of the neck or a part of the body. Just kind of, just get some friction going and get it warm. Right? So just kind of like rub it until it's warm. And then it gets sticky. It's most likely Nitro. However, you should be able to know because of the serial number and stuff and the date. You should have a born on date. I believe Nathan told me, because they were gone, I think, until, July 9th. It might have been June 9th. But here's what I know. When they came back, they were pretty much all Nitro at that point, is what I think he told me. So if yours is pre, let's say June of 2020, it's possible it's Nitro, but if I think it's post June 2020, it's pretty much Nitro. And I'll confirm with Nathan on that for you and stuff if I'm wrong, or I'll put it all next week. But the other ways, the rub test is the easiest way to figure out Nitro. Or you could take a black light to it. It'll glow. That's easy too. It's just most people don't have a black light. Unless you live in Arizona and you need to look for scorpions. I always love saying that because that's not a joke. Anyways, so black light test is fast and easy. Otherwise, do the rub test and see if it gets tacky or sticky, or look on the date. Those are 3 ways to do it. SC Junior says, the trim claw on my Strandberg are drilled unevenly. Yep. One screw sits higher than the other. Yep. I've seen it. Every brand, you see it a lot. Does this cause an issue in your experience? It can cause an issue. Most of the time, it doesn't. Sometimes you have to look at it. It's not super common to have them drilled into different points like you're talking about. It's really more common. I mean, that does happen, but more common is one of the screws is bent. That happens a lot. And then as you turn it, it's like wobbly because it's bent. If it's bent, you can actually pull it out and replace it and fix that issue. The good and the bad news of this is this. If you're having no issues with the tremolo, then you're not going to have any issues and you're fine. If you're having issues with the tremolo, it could be because of that and it needs to be fixed. That's the best answer. Is that because it's uneven doesn't mean you're going to have a problem. But if you have a problem, it's probably because it's uneven. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Chad Jensen says, thoughts on the VH4 diesel amp head? I've never tried it, ever. Diesel is one of the few amps I've maybe only tried one or two, if that. And hear good things. The ones I tried were really gainy and sounded awesome, but literally just not something I got my hands on. So there you go. I don't have any insight. HR21 says, love the philosophy on life and guitars. About 3 weeks ago, I bought a Taylor guitar, Urban Ash, from local store, and now I'm regretting it. Okay. Do you think I could exchange it? I'm embarrassed to go back. Why would you be embarrassed to go back? So you bought it 3 weeks ago. So the $1 million question is, you said you bought it from a local store. You don't know what their return policy is. A decent mom and pop style store, okay, should have a return policy of exchange minimum. In other words, you can return it up to 30 days for exchange. A lot of times, look, I was, dealer is hard. I told you when people would ask me, it's like hard to fight Guitar Center. It was never hard to fight them on price. It was never hard to fight them on experience. It was never hard to fight them on a lot of categories except for the one, which was the amazingly easy return policies of Guitar Center. The whole, hey, just take it back and you get full refund. As a small business, a lot of times, and I'm telling you this because this is going to help you for your return logic. A lot of times you have to understand that you buy this guitar and then when they got your money, a small business will literally pay bills with it. You know what I mean? And so when you come back and you're like, hey, I don't want it. I want my money back. They don't really even have it to give you. You know what I mean? That's like that really honest to God truth. You know what I mean? It's tough. And when I say, you're probably right now, in case somebody says something right now in the comments, because somebody always says something silly or stupid when it comes to stuff like this. Because look, if you haven't owned a business, I don't think you should have any discussion about business. I love hearing everybody's theories, but like I said, owning it and operating a business is a really interesting process. So what I mean by that is one guitar or one thing returned and you have to refund isn't hard. But once you have a policy of return, it's hard because you're going to get a certain amount of percentage. Look, there's a certain amount of percentage of returns that just happen. I see it every month with just Sweetwater. I think Sweetwater's returns are out of control. If you want my opinion, it looks crazy. When I watch the affiliates, because I have affiliates, as you know, and so sometimes I'll see what you guys buy. Not, I can look at the products, but I just see the totals, and then a week later they deduct back out because they're returning. You know what I mean? Stuff's constantly returning. Amazon, of course, good return amount, high amount as well. But back to your problem, they should have a 30-day exchange is minimum. So if they have a return policy where you can get your money back. That's easy. If they don't, it's exchange. Go exchange it. But you should never be embarrassed about it. Look, here's the thing. This is the litmus test, so to speak. You walk into a store, okay, and they treat you great when you gave them money. That doesn't mean they're good people or good business. That's why I say I don't like people. Well, I don't want to say I don't like it. I don't find it interesting when people who have never owned businesses like to talk about this stuff. Your character doesn't get tested until the return, until the customer has a problem. That's when as a business, your character is tested. Your business ethics are tested. Taking people's money and smiling at them is the easiest damn thing ever. That's why even con artists get that right? The hard part is taking care of the customer. It is hard to take care of the customer. And that's why, as customers, we should appreciate when we are taken care of, because it is hard. So what I'm saying is you should be able to walk in the store exactly the way you phrase is perfect. Hey, I got this Taylor and I'm not loving it and regretting it a little bit. And now, if you know their policy, just work within their policy. If you don't know it, you need to ask them the policy. Can I exchange this for something else I can enjoy? Or can I get a refund? There you go. And then they take care of you. And if they don't take care of you, well, then here's the deal. Don't ever go back again. I know there's other things you can do. You throw a fit, right? The best joke I ever heard was companies like to say the word policy like it means something. It means nothing, right? Best joke I ever heard about policies was Adam Carolla. I hate stealing a guy's joke, but Adam Carolla had a great one. He was talking about policies. He said the problem with policies is everybody has one and they mean nothing. He said, my wife says, what did she say? He says, my wife asked me to take out the trash. And he says, I have a policy. And the policy is I don't take out the trash. And she's like, yeah, I have a policy too. And it's called you take out the trash. Right. And he goes, so I took out the trash. Basically, what I'm saying is that even if their policy says no refunds or no exchanges, you understand you can question it. You can push on them a little bit. Look, it works real simple. Okay. You start with the kindness. It ramps slowly, right? You got to get more aggressive as if they're not taking care of you. Again, it's really about them taking care of you. That's the opportunity. It's their opportunity to keep you as a customer in the future. So I would give them an opportunity to do that. And then if they don't do that, try to push on it a little bit. You know what I mean? Don't throw a fit. I find that it won't work. What I will tell you is for this strategy, I will say this. There's a technique I use. I like it. I've said this before. I'm going to say it to you guys now. I think that you essentially have 3 tactics you can use when you're dealing with people in a negotiation or in a situation like this. Of course, you can use kindness. I think that's the most effective. You can use deception, okay? Or you can use hostility or anger, right? We'll say anger. Be aggressive. Maybe be aggressive. So kindness, aggression, or, deception, right? What I will tell you is this is why I say that these are the 3 things. This is the technique I've used for 20 years or longer now. You can only use the one of those 3. You can only use the one that they're not using. So if you go somewhere and they're being aggressive, you have to be kind. You have to be nice. And if you don't feel like being nice, well, then that's what deception is. That's you pretending that you're kind and nice. You got to fake it. Fake that you're okay with it. If they're being kind and not giving you what you want, you have to now be a little deceptive. In other words, manipulate a little bit or a bit aggressive, right? You see what I'm saying? If they're kind of full of crap and trying to be deceptive, you unfortunately can only be kind or aggressive. I found this always works. You just basically read their mannerisms and then pick one of the 3 you think they're at and then find the other 2 that they're not and go with that. And then as they adjust, you adjust and, like I said, that's how I deal with things. But like I said, kindness usually works first because essentially they're used to everybody. Everybody thinks aggression works first. And that's why everybody who uses it gets nowhere with it. Because everybody goes to it first, like it's some kind of tactic. I got this guitar, and if you don't take it back, you're going to be sorry. Okay. Or my favorite thing that people like to do, my favorite thing to do is that when people like to just start quoting random made-up laws that don't apply to anything. It's the law. The law says you have to give me a 30-day return policy. So, and each state has different rules about that stuff. But in most cases, whatever the business is doing is probably legal. Ethical? Sadly enough, I don't think ethics and laws always line up perfectly. So, there you go. Okay, I have no idea what the hell you're saying, but I'm going to try to say it because I think I know what it means. Neil says, Phil, do you ever get proper grumpy and lose the pot? I love this. This is what I would call a colloquialism. Basically a way someone talks. So I'm assuming that where you live, this is grumpy. And so I'm imagining that what I'm thinking you're saying is what I'm saying is, do you ever get grumpy and lose the pot? And do you ever get pissed off and lose your S word, right? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yes, I have less as I get older, less and less. I get angry much less as I get older. Every day I get older, I get a little less angry, physically outward angry. But not because I'm getting older, because tenured. I'm tenured. I know, I don't want to say how to get my way, but I know what works. And I've dealt with people for a long time. A lot of you watching this, some of you are engineers and you don't hang around people. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people literally work with people for a living. If you work with people for a living, you kind of figure out what starts working, what doesn't work really, really effectively. So I found that, like I said, anger usually gets you nowhere. But I've lost my temper many, many times in public, in places, all the time. I've lost it on customers. I've lost it on businesses. Look, that's normal. That's a normal thing. So I've never been arrested for it. but I have, yeah, of course. But I try not to go there anymore because, like I said, usually the way I think of this is if I get to a point where I'm screaming or yelling or upset, I'm probably not getting my way. In fact, I know I'm not getting my way. Last time I got upset, I think it was like a year or so ago, right before COVID. I got upset with a restaurant who really jacked up an order really, really bad. We ordered like, just to give you a reference, because it was really bad. We ordered, because we had a bunch of people over, we ordered, I want to say like 20 different kinds of hot wings, right? 20 different flavors. And so, everybody gets like 6 hot wings in a thing. And my wife went and picked up the food. And some people got like super like ghost pepper hot. And some people are like teriyaki. And some people are like no heat because they can't have heat. And some people got, garlic. So obviously all these flavors. My wife went and picked it up. We were going to have it delivered, but my wife didn't want to get it messed up. So she went there and she talked to the girl at the counter and she's like, okay, is everything labeled? Everything good? And she said, yeah. We get to the house. We open them up. Nothing is labeled. Nothing. And so I call the restaurant and the manager gets on the phone and tells me they don't label food. It's their policy. I'm not making this up. We don't label food that goes outside the restaurant. So it just is, figure it out. So of course I got lost. I screamed, I yelled, and at the end he did nothing. And we all test sampled crazy wings. It was a random hot, figure out what the hell you have night. So again, didn't get my way. Didn't get anything out of the deal. Sucks. So I should have kept the kindness going. I bet you it would have worked. All right. We need to get to another question. Another subject. Alex says that's messed up. Oh, it was horrible. I mean, don't get me wrong. We were like, what the hell? What's really worse, just on my down to end that, what really worse about that was that not only were they not all labeled, we're 90% sure, I'm just making up that number, but we're really sure that they're not even what we ordered. Because we were all freaking out who was going to get ghost pepper ones and stuff, and none of them were ever hot. Not a single wing was hot at all at the end of the night. When everybody was done, we're like, yeah, nothing was hot. Nothing was garlicky, and nothing was like, we're like, I don't know what they sent us because it wasn't even what we ordered. So, all right. Okay. What else do we got? Just seeing what you guys are talking about. Eric's here. Eric was there. He said it was a night to remember, LOL. Yeah, it was interesting. I think I really don't know for sure, but I don't know if I was actually mad they messed up the order. I think I was just mad that they didn't care they messed up the order. It was kind of like that. Again, what I'm telling you, and this is what ties in back to your return of your Taylor guitar. It's, you know what I mean? You even if they can't, even if they go, I can't do anything for you, at least if they sound sympathetic, you're not happy about it, but at least you feel like somebody's empathizing with your situation to basically be like, yeah, that's your problem. It kind of, just sets you off. We tune to C says, just bought a used Cutlass, Musicman Cutlass. I'm going to say RS from Guitar Center. Guess what? Case and guitar look brand new, and all the case candy is there. Guitar Center used is better than new. Yes. Look, buying used at Guitar Center seems to be the best bet. Not only do they tend to be on the cheaper side, a lot of the products, and they have a great return policy. So if you get something used, you don't like it, you can just take it right back in the store. Like we said before, sometimes they're sending you new stuff. Guitar Center, let's we tend to bag on Guitar Center. Let's give Guitar Center some credit today. Here's something that I can say very positive about Guitar Center. They are consistent as a company. I mean, when they when they, you buy new and they send you used, and if you buy used, they can send you new. At least they're consistent, the craziness. Like I said, you will either get a great deal at Guitar Center or you'll get screwed. But the good news is if you get screwed, their policies are in line enough to where you can get unscrewed. Does that make sense? So that's good. Like I said, that's a good thing. But yeah, I highly still recommend Guitar Center used. I'm still not happy with their policies, and and somebody asked a couple of times now if they reached out or anything, and they're not going to reach out. They probably don't even know what YouTube is. That sounds like a dig. It's not a dig. I just, anyone who's probably at Guitar Center that's responsible for all that stuff, they probably don't watch this stuff. Hell, I would bet all the people who make all the policies at Guitar Center don't even play guitar. So why would they look at a guitar channel? David says, he has a Gretsch hollow body with a humbucker routes. Recommendation for upgrades of pickups. Look, for Gretsch, I'm boring, man. I like Filtertrons, TV Jones, that stuff for sure. That's the way I would go. I don't know why. I just love that. That's what I love about my Gretsch. That's what I like about Gretches. So that's what I'd recommend. I don't know if I'd stick anything else in there. That's what I would stick in there. There you go. Firmware says, considering a PRS 594 double cut, not sure if I want TCI tuned pickups. Do you have an opinion? You could take the pickups out. Think about this. You're looking at this the wrong way. Good and bad. Okay. You buy a PRS 594 and it has the TCI pickups, tune capacitance, inductance pickups. Anyways, you have those pickups and you don't like them. Pull them out, stick in something good in there, right? Something you like. Seth Lovers from Seymour Duncan will be good. Some PAFs, right? Put Gibson pickups in them. You can stick anything in there. And now you have two choices. Once you decide you do that and you love the guitar and you think you're going to keep the guitar forever, that's important because you got to keep the guitar forever. You're going to do this one. You could sell those pickups for crazy money. Crazy. You'll get $500, maybe more. Don't even listen to me. I haven't looked. Last time I looked, they were like $400 or $500 a set because PRS won't sell them and people want them. So you can sell them for top dollar. If you don't know if you're going to keep the guitar forever, well, then you take them out and you put them in the case. And then if you ever sell the guitar, you put them back in because if you don't have them, you'll take a hit on that guitar. So yeah, you don't have to stick with their pickups. So that's easy. That's the best thing about pickups, man. They're easiest thing to change. That's why most inexpensive guitars, that's where you like them to skimp on, because that's the thing anyone can fix. You just throw in some new pickups. It's a little harder to fix, like when it's a rosewood fretboard and you want maple. It's hard to delaminate a fretboard and stick a new one on. That's a little bit of work. You know what I mean? So difficulty-wise, or then maybe even a nut is sometimes difficult, but definitely swapping out like tuning keys, bridges for the most part, and electronics are super easy. So those are the things you can do to change the guitar. So there you go. And then VJ, maybe it's Viha. Maybe the J silent? I don't know. VJ or Viha? I don't know. It says mid-90s authentic Les Paul Studio. Okay. Thinking about paying someone to take it all down to wood and maybe a light matte finish, including neck and headstock. How much should I expect to pay for this? The problem you're going to find with that deal is that the people that I probably would trust to do it are going to charge you an insane amount of money to do it. In fact, I'm going to put it to you this way. So I'm very skeptical when there's projects like that, sanding everything down and putting a satin finish on stuff. When people give you a really good quote, like a really good price, you probably don't want them to do it. There's, you know what I mean? The people that are skilled at it are going to want to get paid because it's hours, it's time. It's not hard, it's just time. So, how much should you expect to pay for this? I have no idea. You want to know my guess? $500 to $1,000, depending where you live. That'd be my guess. 1,000, I know, sounds probably high. Depends, because you're saying you want a light matte finish. Well, first of all, let me tell you, if you have a Les Paul Studio, mid-90s, I don't think you should do anything to it, but it's your guitar. But take it down to wood and put a light matte finish on it. You shouldn't need to do that, first of all. It's nitrocellulose lacquer finish And so first, this is why I'm saying it's a lot of work. You understand, for them to paint it, they got to shoot nitro back on it. Or they got to remove 100% of that nitrocellulose lacquer off that guitar, and they got to make sure it's all gone before they put anything else on it. Okay? But I would say, unless you're trying to change the color, you're up to other things, I would say if you want a matte finish, you can just have someone, if you don't want to do it yourself, sand the nitro down to matte finish. You can do that. Absolutely. Can totally be done. Super, super easy. That shouldn't cost a lot if you have it that done. And you can do it yourself too. Just sand it down. And if you're thinking about having somebody sand it down to wood and doing all this stuff again, I'd do it myself anyways. I'd sand it down and try to make it nitro or satin and do that stuff. And if you mess it up, well, then you just got them started on the project that they're going to do for you. What do you got to lose? If you do it right, then you don't have to pay anybody. And if you do it and it doesn't work out the way you want, you can now pay somebody. It's not going to be different. That would be my suggestions for that. Okay. Now I'm just looking to see what Shiloh says, but it's authentic. I know, we laugh. Don't we all laugh now? You hear authentic. I can't hear authentic and not chuckle. And I find it's being used more and more. When I'm on Instagram, it's like authentic. Gibson and authentic, definitely, I think they got the marketing across because I see more people using authentic. But what's funny about it is I can't not chuckle when I hear the word authentic. It's almost like it's involuntary every time. Warham5 says 2020 PRS Special still not in store. Any thoughts? That was the guitar I think I wanted to get, was a PRS Special. And I want a semi-hollow PRS Special. But yeah, I don't know. They're back ordered. That's the reality is this. Look, the reality is that even though we're not in the market we were this time last year, okay, the market is still hot. It's still selling guitars, man. You guys are still buying guitars. You're still buying pedals and amps. I did that Pedal Pal video. Jesus, you guys went crazy. Everybody's comment is like, there's no pedals. Look, it was funny. I think I told you this. Luis reached out and said, hey, we're about to get some inventory on pedals. Would you mention it on a live show? I said, oh, I have the pedal. I love it. Why don't I do a video? I did the video. And Luis called the next day and he's like, oh yeah, they went fast. And I think he did pre-order lineup, and I guess that went fast too. Because you guys are buying stuff. That's what it is. You're buying stuff. The Bad Cat, I was a little nervous to release that video. I talked to John at Bad Cat because I was like, hey, I don't want to release this video if they can't get anything. And he's like, they're catching up. They're getting on stuff. But yeah, right now, I hate to say it, this is the sad truth, man. If you guys want stuff, you got to put it on order. Or wait. Either way, you're waiting. You put it on order and wait till it comes in, or you got to wait for this market to settle. Because remember, we have multiple things going on. Funny thing that happened to me recently was when I did the Firefly video. So you know, and so this is very clear. I have to be very clear that what I'm telling you is true, but not particularly connected to the Firefly guitar. Okay, and you'll understand why when I'm saying it that way. So in the Firefly video, I sanded the pickup pocket and the truss rod route, and I sanded them and looked at the wood to see if it was maple and mahogany and the neck was mahogany. And what I thought I saw was either poplar or basswood. And but either way, it wasn't maple or mahogany. And I wanted to test it. And why? Because the guitar was like $180 delivered. I wanted to see if they were actually using those woods. What's interesting, what I found out since then, what I thought was really interesting about that was, again, I want to be a little harsh today because it's funny. So let's do a little funny. I love all the, like I said, we used to call them shade tree mechanics because, guys that work in cars under a shade tree. Porch lawyers, shade tree lawyers, everybody thinks they're a lawyer. That video cracks me up. You know how many people put comments like, oh, what do you mean it's not mahogany maple? That's against the law. And I'm like, man, why do people just say random stupid things on the internet? Just typing things. Yeah, why wouldn't you Google it first? It's not against the law because every company uses the same get out of jail free card. They put somewhere on their website that, right, where they say specifications can change at any time. That's what they put. They put all kinds of terminology like that. There's always some kind of disclaimer like materials or, specifications can change at any time. So therefore, they change and they don't have to notify you. And that's what they're telling you. But in this particular case, what was interesting about that guitar was what I got told by 2 other companies that are both based in China. They told me that they couldn't get maple from Canada during COVID, and they were getting hard to get sapele. In fact, in other words, there was wood shortages everywhere. And so here's what they were telling me, these manufacturers. And actually, if I'm being accurate, I should actually say it's 3 manufacturers. But what's funny about them, they all said the same thing, that because they were OEMing, they were building for other companies, right? So official merchandise. So what's interesting about this was what they were saying is if the companies had any kind of verbiage like that the specifications are subject to change at any time, they could send out what they would just make it out of whatever they had. So, but if they didn't, they would have to wait. So the guitars would just wait. You know what I mean? They would, wait to get the wood to build the guitars. So what I'm saying is what the story I got from them was that there's a lot of players out there right now, especially in the mid to low inexpensive price category, where your guitars might not be the woods they normally are if they came from like the height of the COVID mess last year, right? What's interesting about that that's why I said that Firefly thing's not connected in that way. I don't know what happened, but what I do know is that the guys at Firefly did see that video, because I know I sent it to them, and they did respond, and all they responded was they liked the video. They said, "Oh, cool video." I don't know if they watched it, because sometimes I wonder about companies when they say, "Oh, cool video," and I go, "You're not going to address the fact that I said that your guitar's not made out of the woods that you said it was?" Like, no response to that. But it could have been as simple as that they're just making the guitars out of whatever they have now. So what's interesting is you might be noticing, if you look, some of your guitars from last year might not be out of the woods that they say they were, because there was definitely shortages where, like they said flat out, they could not get maple, they could not get cedar for acoustics out of Canada. They couldn't get anything out of Canada. Canada's locked down, everything's locked down. And then they said same thing, they couldn't get sapele, which is basically what a lot of people were using as mahogany. And they said, so at some point they just said, screw it, they got to use what they got. So they just used woods that they had, whatever those woods were, they just started using them. So there you go. Very interesting conversation, I should say. Okay, I'm looking to see. There's David says, as a lawyer, I can assure you that you're correct. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's funny. And he's an attorney, so he'll tell you, look, even if you Google a law, it's under interpretation. And of course, that's what lawyers are for. They're here to interpret the law, and, they can do stuff to, it's all an argument, so to speak. Right. But the point of this is that I always find funny is that people will post things like that, like, oh, this is the law. But I'm like, why didn't you even Google it? It came up right immediately that's not true. I didn't even have to go ask an attorney friend. I just literally Googled it. So there you go. Okay, hold on. I'm just looking at comments, and I'm also... Miss Anthrope PDX says, I'm really thinking about getting a pedal pal pedal. I think you should. They're out of stock right now, and they don't like back orders. Luis and Alvaro, look, as you guys know, I'm very upfront when I'm friends with people like Lawrence, Robert Keeley, Larry DiMarzio, Luis and Alvaro. They're all friends. I mean, they're friends. We just talk. We don't even most of our conversations aren't even about YouTube or they're about their businesses. It's just, we just talk like guitar, like us right now. Hey, what guitar did you get this week? Well, what do you know what I mean? I think Luis and I talked a week ago, and I think the main thing we talked about was he got a DSL 15. Marshall head. So the point of this is I always tell you that I like their products and I like them. And the reason I tend to like people who have strong integrity, and people with strong integrity tend to make good stuff because they have integrity, but they're also detail oriented. It's just a thing. Those pedals are really good. You know what I mean? They do their thing and they do it really well. And I'm not shocked that they're always out of stock. And they don't even highlight this, but I should tell you guys this so you know. They make those pedals in Venezuela, but they're 100%, or I don't want to say 100%. That sounds like too much of a push on them. Most of the pedal is USA parts. They get the cases. I think most of it comes out of Kentucky. So they get the cases, almost all the parts they get from the United States. So they get parts from the United States and they build them in Venezuela. And the reason I tell you is that's what's hurting them, is they're having trouble getting parts. So they got high orders and low inventory of parts, and they're putting pedals together as fast as they can. And he told me over and over again, he just does not want to do back orders because he doesn't want to feel like he owes you guys something, and he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. He doesn't want to tell you guys he can have it done. And so if he took some pre-orders, I think he did. He told me he was going to. He took some, and then they sold out too fast, and he wouldn't take any more because I think he said that was already hard enough that he wanted to be able to guarantee those people got their pedals when they're supposed to. Fret Level Midnight says, I don't think he's talking to me, but I just want to say it. He says the 87, he's talking about the LPD 87, is 1,000 times better than the 5150 drive. It's really not even close. Well, they're totally different drives. So I just wanted to read it because, one, I like Lawrence, and highlight his 87 drive. It's one of my favorite drives. In fact, I can tell you right now, those are my two favorite high-gain drive pedals. The 5150 drive and the LPD 87 drive. Those are the two I used. They're just two different animals. The thing about the 5150 drive is you got to like the 5150 amp. That's as easy as it gets. If you like that high gain, squishy, meshy stuff, then yeah, it's a great pedal for that. The noise gate on it's great too. But the 87 sounds more like an amp. I know that sounds weird, but it does. It sounds more like a aggressive, kind of a raw amplifier and less like a pedal. Okay. Oh, Jim Simmons asked me if I saw the new Headrush pedal for $399. I did. I was actually in the market. I'm not kidding, for a gig board. I was looking at them, and I was thinking about. I told you guys I had a $109 gift card to Guitar Center left, and I was thinking about just putting it towards that and getting a gig board, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I can't buy anything else from Guitar Center new. It's just going to make me, it's just too much of a headache. So I thought, okay, I'll go on Reverb, and I looked at them, and then I thought, well, now that I'm looking at them, why don't I look at used ones? And then they made that announcement on that. And actually, that screwed everything up. So to answer your question, I saw it, and I was probably going to have a gig board to show you guys. I wanted to take the gig board. I know a ton of people did this, but I was curious. I take the gig board against my HX Stomp. The reason is I keep hearing the gig boards aren't very good sounding wise from a lot of people. You know what I mean? And so I go, that's why I want to check it out for myself. And long story short, then this came out. And now I'm like, I don't know, which way do I go? I don't know. I like the price of the new one, but I don't want the wall. I don't want the expression control. So I'll have to think about it. So I ended up buying neither. But I promise you'll be the first to know if I get one. Luke Lukens says, "Hey Phil, love the show. Do you know anything about the Mexi Fender Splatter series from 2003? I have a Splattercaster, but want the Splatter Telly, but cannot find one." So those are going to be probably FSR Fender Special runs, right? Which are limited runs. Fender, they don't have to do it now because the guitar market, but Fender has always done this thing, and I always thought it was smart. When the season is slow, which is the summertime, Fender releases a lot of limited edition stuff, and especially in the Made in Mexico series. So you see a lot of crazy stuff. Remember they did lose my voice. They did the dip guitars. Obviously, they do splatter guitars. They did the special graphics guitars for artists. They do that stuff, and they usually do it in the summertime because the dealers aren't really selling a lot of guitars, so they're not really ordering a lot of guitars. And if you do something like that, the dealers will get them because limited runs, something exciting. So that's probably when they did that. Probably 2003 was probably a limited special run. It's easy to figure out if you have a special run guitar because you can go and get now it's all PDFs or whatever. You can get a PDF of every catalog pretty much from Fender or any major brand. So if you go to 2003 Fender catalog, look at the catalog. If that guitar's not in the catalog, it was a Fender special run. They usually won't put the special runs in the catalogs. For short time, they had supplemental catalogs, like a little pamphlet-y, one, maybe 4 or 5 pages, and they would add those, or have smaller ones throughout the year. But then that was an expense, and they got rid of that fast. And definitely 2003 was around that time when they were like, hey, why do that? So everything that's special run, limited run, that's why I tell you guys all the time, a lot of times FSR stuff, Fender special run stuff, whether it's made in Mexico or the USA, eventually over time just seems like you have custom instruments because it's just, they didn't do a lot of them. And like Luke's saying, he can't find the Tele version of this because they're very hard to come by. I just saw one of the splatter casters on GC used a couple weeks ago. It went pretty fast, but it wasn't a Tele. So the best way you can do is you got to go on Reverb, go on eBay, put it in a search and have it saved so it notifies you if anyone lists that stuff. But yeah, they're hard to come by because the thing is you got to understand, they probably didn't make very many. That stuff, they probably would make maybe a week or two, or, I don't know. So, I'm guessing. This is just flat out guess. I mean, they could make 2 days run. They could make a 2-week run of that stuff. Sounds like a lot. It's not. You know what I mean? It's just not. So, could be thousands of them, but probably hundreds. So be aware of that. So, yeah. And that's why, guys should always see when you see FSR, check that stuff out. It's really cool. Let's see. Ian's just, I know you're talking about, he's talking about the MX5, which is the new Headrush thing. He's saying it's also an interface. Yes, I saw that. I saw that was kind of cool. I don't need an interface. But it is cool. Okay. Yeah, Daniel Dry says, I have an FSR, I don't know what this is, Mischief Maker, which hopefully they won't make too many runs of. My experience with the FSR stuff is that it very rarely gets done a second run, very rarely. And like I said, you'd think they'd go back to the well. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we did those splatter casters and go back to it. Or, hey, we did this and go back to it. Very rarely do you see them go back to those things and pull them back up. I don't know why. But right now, you're not seeing very much FSR stuff. I haven't been seeing very much FSR stuff because they don't really need to. They got to stay focused on getting the stuff out that's being ordered by the dealers to worry about how to get the dealers that order more. The dealers are ordering enough. Landon says, Phil, do you know how many Fender manufacturers... Do you know how many Fender manufacturers in an FSR? I've heard like 250 sometimes. I have a limited edition Princeton with a 12-inch Alnico blue. Just always wondered how limited it is. Yeah, see, that's the tough thing. So Fender doesn't like to tell anybody. They would never even tell the dealers. You would just have no idea. Sometimes, and when I say that, I mean, sometimes the reps would tell you numbers, but even I've caught reps over the years. They'd be like, oh, we made 200, like you said, 250. And then a couple weeks later, you're talking to them like, oh, because if it doesn't sell through, they'll come back. And they go, well, you doing those 6 FSRs, you need any more? We're only making 120 of them. I'm like, oh yeah, I thought it was 250, right? Here's what I think. I don't know if they even have a set number, but so, I've heard the rumor, you heard too, 250 seems to be really consistent. But I think, like I said, I think they have it's not a number. Here's a theory. I don't think it's a number. It's a time. So in other words, like they'll run, they run a line for a few days. Does it make sense? Or because let's say they can make like that amp. Let's say that Princeton, they can make, I don't know. I'm just making up numbers, of course. Let's say they make 50 in a day normally. So what they'll do is for a day, they won't make any of the black ones or the normal ones. They'll make the FSR ones. So that's what I'm thinking they're doing. Right? Because they're gunking up. Remember, if they're making that stuff, they're not making the other stuff. So I think that's why they do it that way. They're just like, okay, for 2 days, we're going to make, this, and it's, and then they get them out. But a lot of times they are throwing numbers, but I have no idea what the numbers are. So who knows? And sometimes this is true too. I've seen Fender do this, and a lot of companies do it way more than Fender. Fender, not so much. Fender's usually pretty good about, calculating the market and then building to it. But a lot of times I'm sure they'll they'll do what a lot of dealers do, which is they'll go to the NAMM show and they'll take orders from dealers and then they'll see how much the interest is. You know what I mean? So they'll get pre-orders and then they'll go, oh, we got 500 pre-orders. We're going to make 250. So let's just make 500. Or we were going to make 500, but we only got 250. So let's make 250. So. I missed the person I jumped. I'm sorry, but I caught the comment. It said, what's the best looper with a battery for busking? I like the Boss looper, is it the LP1? Whatever, the looper one. There's a reason for that, okay? First of all, that's if you don't have any kind of lithium-powered battery. I was going to grab one. I had one right here. I moved it. But Boss pedals are really good on batteries. In other words, they take a lot of abuse. You can run a long time with that pedal on a battery. But if you don't want to use that Boss pedal with a battery, you can use any pedal. Just get a lithium battery. They make all kinds of batteries. I have a Sanyo one. I have a Big Joe one. I mean, there's a ton of them. Tons of them. You can just get them on Amazon. Just lithium batteries they'll power stuff for days. That way you can plug anything you want to it. Especially for busking. Sometimes it's nice to make a little rig where it's all powered off one battery. Okay. Hold on a second. RC1. Thank you. The RC1. I knew it was something one. It's the one I use. I have a bunch of loopers, but I like the Ditto Mini, and I like a lot of them, but I just go back to the Boss one. It works fine. Okay, and then I'm just reading real quick, guys. Buzz Wilson just did a super chat said just supporting. Bradley said just dropping in to say hi and have a good weekend and get a beer or two on me. I'll do that. I don't know what it was, like a cucumber mojito. I had that this week. It was nice. We went out to dinner, me and my wife, and tried one of those. It was awesome. And Blue Walkingbird says, "Hey Phil, what are the quality and sound differences between hand-wired and a circuit board Gibson Les Pauls? Circuit board makes me nervous. Love your work." I hate working on the circuit board stuff that Gibson uses. Look, but that's me. That's me, meaning that's the tech side of that. So what? I hate working on them. All right. I used to just crap on them. You know what? I fell in the same trap. We all do. You know what I mean? That's one thing nice about having a weekly show where you talk, and I have to timestamp myself. I listen to myself sometimes and go, yeah, why did I say that? Or why do I think that way? And then I change as a person. Sometimes, like anybody who works on stuff, I like to crap on things I don't like to work on. But the reality is, sounds fine, works fine, it's efficient for Gibson. It's just, that's not something I want to work on. So, to answer your question, I will tell you this. I have some Gibsons. I have more Gibsons than any other brand of guitar. That's what I apparently buy the most of. Apparently. I have no idea if any of them have circuit boards in them. I don't look. I didn't care. So that's what I'm basically trying to say is if I have a Gibson with a circuit board in it, I'm not going to look and then take it out if it's in there. It's just if I ever want to change anything on the guitar, when you get the circuit board, you either got to find out how to manipulate the board or kind of add to the board, or just sometimes you just yank that stuff out and just throw on regular potentiometers and call it a day and start over from scratch. But my point is, I wouldn't worry about it. There's nothing in it that's nothing. There's nothing in it that's different. I mean, some people, I've heard people say they're crappy and stuff, but I've never seen it working on them. When I have to work on them, it's very rarely, in fact, never because they've crapped out. It's always just because somebody wants to swap a pickup or they want to swap something, and now I got to deal with that. And then a lot of times the boards just have clips for the pickups, so all I have to do is solder the new pickups to the, and kind of solder them to the new clips and use the clip housings, or yank everything out. But I try to stick, I try to reduce the amount of work I can do. So, depending on the customer, if a customer wants a pickup swap, I'd rather do a pickup swap for them than go yank all that stuff out and rewire it and charge them a rewire, because to me, it's more than double the price. To completely rewire a guitar, I charge twice as what I will charge to install two pickups. So, you know what I mean? If it doesn't hurt, I wouldn't recommend the customer do it even when it's in benefit to me financially to do so. That's what I'm saying. I've never told a customer like, oh, cut this crap out. We'll put it all new, the Rigo stuff in. If they want to do it, I'll do it. But if they just say, I want to pick up swap, I'll just say, hey, look, there's the PC board stuff in there. It works fine. Do you want me to keep it? And sometimes they say, yeah. And sometimes they go, okay, well, what if I don't? And I go, okay, well, it's a rewire and the rewire's double. And they're like, oh, well, I don't think anybody's ever took the deal or the double. I think they always say, yeah, just do the pickups. Warren 5 says 3 pickup SG. Okay. Let's tiny sound out. Okay. Neck position, neck middle, volume 0. Okay. Goes away when bridge turned on to 0, vice versa. Checking wire, switch problem. So he wants to know if that's a switch problem. Okay. This is tricky in what you're describing to me. There's a 3 pickup SG, and here's the issue. In the neck position with the neck and middle, the volume is 0. Okay, so no volume. Then it goes away when the bridge is turned on. In other words, now you get volume. And then 0 vice versa. Checking wiring or switch. This is where I got to think about it, because I got to think about what's in there and what it's all connected to. I mean, look, it immediately makes me think it's a switch problem, but it might not be. You know what I mean? It might be the volume pots and how they're connected. See, the thing I don't know, and this is why I said these questions get a little tricky sometimes. What I don't know in your question was, who had it before you? So are we talking about the stock stuff, or did somebody do something to it before you got to it, and now we're dealing with that problem? So if it was stock, I would say, yeah, you're probably looking at a switch problem, a defective switch or an issue where something's disconnected or something like that. If somebody had it before you, they could have jacked with the potentiometers and things aren't connected correctly. And so so you know, this is why I'm saying this. I've seen this before. When there's a lot of stuff going on guitar and some people go in there, this is what they do. They go in there and they jack everything up, and then they hodgepodge it back together the best they can, and they sell the guitar off, right? And what they'll do is sometimes they'll invert a potentiometer, in other words, a volume pot, so that the volume pot you think full forward is on, because that's what it is, right? And then basically clockwise, right? So turn the thing clockwise all the way and you got volume. But if they've switched to the sides of that potentiometer, now all the way down is off. And the way that sometimes those volume pots overlap in a multi-pickup guitar like that is that they, you know what I mean? So you think all the volumes are on full and you should be getting sound, but really one of them's off. And if one of them's off, it's causing the problem. So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm giving you the answer is, if it's Gibson and you got it straight from them you're fine, check the switch. If you got it used, you need to go in and test each part. And if it was me, I wouldn't even test everything. I would just literally pull the schematic out and just go through everything again and just redo it real quickly. It's faster that way. For me, it is. For you, it might be faster to test stuff. Ben Joel says, fix or buy? Okay, I like this. It's a great way to start a question. Fix or buy? Should you fix it or buy it? What? Says, I have a USA Brian Moore C90 humbucker, single humbucker with Piazzo. MIDI was 5K new. Now the Piezo's dead. MIDI dead. One pickup working. It's $1K to fix it. Oh, why is it $1,000? Well, here's the thing. If I ever wanted to unsell you guys a transducer pickup system, I have learned in my experiences with Parkers, with Brian Moore guitars, with Musicmans. They're the least, so I should not really put them in the, but they're barely in there. What else? PRSs, everything that has a transducer pickup eventually breaks. It's like that stuff is just designed just to be obsolete failure, just dies. So back to your problem. So should you fix it for $1,000? Well, this and then buy a PRS. Well, what you really need to ask yourself is it worth more fixed? I mean, it's $5,000 new. I don't know what they're going for used, and if you got one not working, I mean, you've seen this, man. Ben, you know that what you're looking at. You're looking at putting up one of those Reverb sales that go, "Hey, Brian Moore, not working," right? And then whatever price you put on it, you're going to get 500 offers below that. Because everybody is going to be like, because they're going to just assume whatever you're saying is wrong with it, there could be more wrong with it. They just want to score a deal. Anybody who's in the market, look, anyone who's in the market to buy a broken guitar like that is either going to buy it, fix it, and flip it. So now because they're doing that, it's about how cheap they can get it from you. Because most of the time they just want to flip it. You know what I mean? It happens. We all do it. Look, I do it. I haven't done it in a while, but I do it. Somebody will say something in a description on a guitar. I'm like, what? That's easy to fix. And then I'll buy it and I fix it. And then all of a sudden I get double my money. So, they're out there. Some people fixate on doing that, as an income stream. You know what I mean? I'll just do it because it's just blatantly in my face. And it just seems like I feel guilty. Like, why don't I just do that and make the money? So in your case, that's what you have to think about. Also, $1,000 to fix that sounds like a lot, because it is not likely that there's a whole lot wrong with that guitar in dead pieces, parts. You know what I mean? I think there's probably just wiring issues and stuff. It's a tricky guitar, man. I was a Brian Moore dealer. That was one of my first things I opened the store with, was Brian Moore. But it was mostly the imports. That's when he was doing the import stuff. And I did it because I was like, oh, this would be unique. And that was my first lesson in retail of no one knows what you have. I pulled in some really unique brands really early in the store. And I did that later in the store. But what I learned opening the store right away was, everybody says that. I did the same logic everybody does. Like, I'm going to get a bunch of brands that no one's seen. And when they come in my store, it'll feel different. But what happened is, because you pull in a bunch of brands they don't know, they just think something's wrong with your store. So like, I have Brian Moore and they're like, he has these weird, cheap guitars I've never heard of, and he wants crazy money for them. You know what I mean? Because they just don't know what that brand is. So I learned, you had to pull in some more mainstay brands and kind of salt and pepper it, is like I say. You can put some of the unique stuff in there with some of the stuff everybody knows. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is, but I think if you like the guitar, you should pay to have it fixed. I mean, obviously you can't buy unless you're buying an SE PRS, you're not going to buy a PRS for $1,000. So you can get the guitar fixed for $1,000, but that seems high to me. So that's the other thing too. I would definitely get a second opinion on that. Just because, hey, it's just like anything else, like a mechanic, anything. If you go in a shop and they give you a price, go to a different shop, see what they say. You get two prices the same, that tells you a lot. David says, is it possible to install a humbucker into a Donner Telly? Sure, of course. When I did the Donner Telly, I think I pulled the one I did. I pulled the pickguard off and everything was routed so that you can put the humbucker in the neck. The bridge probably not so much, but you can route that out. Sure, it's very easy to do. DR D.R. So it's not doctor, it's DR. Question, just jumped in. I'm not sure this was already talked about or brought up, but is there a concern simply? Oh, is there a concern supply of wood due to some of the wildfires that are happening in okay, because the whole world's on fire. Look, the whole world's either flooded or on fire, and in some cases, both. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard anything specifically about wood supply being an issue because of fires, and I'm sure it's very possible, but not me. I haven't heard that. The issue I've heard with wood, magnets, all kinds of stuff with supply issues, steel, is literally just the high demand with a lower amount of production. Manufacturers gobbling it up. It's, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not hearing a lot of raw materials sort of access like that. Like there's no trees. It's just, there's nobody to go get the trees because they're just not working, or there's no one, they got to fill the back orders. So that's what I've been hearing consistently when I'm talking to manufacturers, is that's what's hurting with the wood supply. And transportation. I mean, in other words, getting stuff shipped around the world is getting tricky. Still is tricky. Everybody's still playing catch up. As you guys know, I've been making pickups for the last year now, and it's been a nightmare keeping that stuff in stock. I've been on it. You know what I mean? I would never in a million years, except for now, just during COVID, I would have never in a million years think that the majority of my time with this would be sourcing supplies. That's where I spend most of my time, sourcing supplies and making sure I'm getting the right supplies. And so, and fighting with suppliers because they keep sending me substandard, in my opinion, substandard parts Like, I'm like, this is not what I ordered. And they go, well, we have this and it's the same. They're like, everybody says the same thing to you. It's like everybody's got, they're just wired up. Oh no, we get it from a different supplier, but it's the same. And I'm like, it doesn't look the same. It doesn't feel the same. I don't want it. And it goes back. So, and then but I don't have the parts then. So, but I've been on it. Pretty good. I've been on most of the orders, no problem. Carl says, cheers, Phil. Fret Level Midnight has a question. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Let me find Fret Level Midnight. Let me find your question. I'm assuming here it is. Nope. Here, okay. Here it is. Fret Level Midnight says, change bridge on a Harley Benton double cut Les Paul Jr. to a lightning bar, and now the string feels floppy. I don't like my strings the same way I don't like my bacon floppy. Switches to 11s. Switch to 11s. Interesting. So you change the bridge, and now you're basically saying, and you're obviously using the same string, same tuning, and the tension seems, you say floppy, I'm going to say look loose, right? That's basically what I'm going to say. Yeah, you could change the gauge of strings. That would fix that. It's tough because we're going to use different words, right? Floppy, I'm thinking the strings have a sagging kind of feel. But yeah, what I notice is this. What a bridge really can do, really do to a guitar, is change the way bending strings feel, for sure. For sure. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about hardtail versus tremolo strats and stuff like that. To me, tremolos versus non-tremolos, through bodies versus top mount, all that stuff, you got to tune the same tension to get the same pitch on the same gauge of string, but those all affect the way it feels when you bend. So sure, if it's bending, that's exactly how I fix everything when I'm dealing with my guitars. If I put my 10s on a guitar and it feels a little loose or it feels a little tight, I switch down to 9s or I go up to 11s. It's not a problem. That's what I would do. It's an easy, cheap try fix. So in other words, pack of strings and you can try and see if it fixes the issue. Christopher, and then we're going to end on this. Christopher's question is, Phil, he says, my Fender Super Champ XD lost most of its volume. I have to turn it half the way up to hear anything. Does it need new tubes? That could be a tube issue. You got to remember, the Super Champ's really has got 3 tubes, 2 power tubes and a preamp tube, but that preamp tube is essentially is a part of the power section. You know what I mean? It's not really part of the preamp section. So it could be one of those tubes crapping out on you. That is real possible. Obviously one of the power tubes could be just gone. That's possible. So absolutely, that's where I would check first. Now you got to understand there's digital technology in the amp. There's all kinds of things that could be going on with it also, but I like to follow with anything tube, whether it's hybrid like that or full tube. If it's got a tube in it, the tube is probably going to be the problem. So change the tube. So that's what I would recommend. And then I know I said that was the last question, but I got one. I did. Yeah, I did get one last super chat and then I want to hit it. So for Chris says, Phil, thank God it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. TGIF, whichever way you want to say it. Some YouTubers say the Spark is too bassy. All YouTubers say it's too bassy. Chris, no YouTuber is saying it's not bassy. And if they are, that YouTuber doesn't have ears. Now I've just started a fight. It's probably one of my friends is a YouTuber too. But it's okay. It's too bassy. Look, I got Ralph, my buddy Ralph got one. He got the Pearl. And I said, how do you like it? And he goes, oh, I love it. He goes, but it's too bassy. It's too bassy. Okay, so it says, do you have an issue with that? Yeah, absolutely. You got to take all the bass out. It's like literally bass 0. Like the bass control is 0. Everything's 0, bass. Can you fix it with EQ? Yeah, take the bass out. Ever use it as a bass amp? I have. Yeah, I in fact use it as a bass amp probably as much as a guitar amp for sure. And I use it as a look, my Spark, I use it probably seriously in order as a Bluetooth speaker the most because it's just on my phone and it's just right there and there you go. And I have it on a power strip, so it's just basically when I'm in the room, it's on. So I know it's on, so I'll just start playing music through it. Then after as a Bluetooth speaker, I use it as a bass amp. And that's probably about 10% more than I use it as a guitar amp. Absolutely. Works great. Great product. That's the only problem. It's the speakers, it's the porting, it's the box design, it's the way they set it up. I don't know what it is. They just put too much damn bass in it. I exported it out into a different cab and it got a little brighter and it didn't get as bassy. So I wanted to see it, and I actually thought it sounded better through a 12-inch speaker. I ran it through a 12-inch speaker cabinet. It sounded great. And then I kind of came with this idea that, because it just mounts out, it's just a small module, and then it's all just a particle board, press board box, speaker box. I thought about putting the module on a 112 cabinet I had and then making it a 112 combo. And then I started working on that, and I was like, I had it in my mind. As I was doing it, I go, would this be a good video? And then I'm like, why would this be a good video? And then I go, I'm not going to do it if it's not going to be a video. But I had to hook it up to see if it worked, and it worked fine. But yes, that's it. It's too bassy. And why? I don't know I have not seen a firm update or anything that takes out all the bass, but I could be wrong. But you just remove all the bass. It's just the end. That's the only negative. It's just the thing. Ironically, I think the Yamaha THD or whatever, THR, whatever their competitor for the Spark is, I think that's a little bright to me sometimes. So you got to pick your poison. So I will tell you this. I almost kind of come to the conclusion, if you don't like the Spark, you'll like the Yamaha. And if you don't like the Yamaha, you like the Spark. So I like the Yamaha, and then I wanted to get one, but then the Spark came by because they sent that out. And then I was like, oh, I love this. I'm going to use this. And then I felt like I was missing something, so I went and tried the Yamaha. And when I tried it, I thought it was a little too bright. And I didn't think that before. I think it's because I've been playing the Spark, and it's so low indie sounding, like I said. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's that. But you can imagine. I think I've told you guys this before. We'll end on this note. Whenever I do any videos on stuff, YouTube, because I do a video on it, the algorithm doesn't understand for some reason the difference between watching a video and making a video on a product or a subject. So if I do a video on a product or a subject, YouTube now just feeds me other YouTubers' videos on that same subject or product. So when I did the Spark, I saw a bunch of other, because it's feeding me Spark videos. I watched a few, and I can't say I watched more than 2 or 3, but the 2 or 3 I watched, the one thing they all said was, it's really bassy, like I said in my video. I'm like, yeah. And then all my friends say the same thing. It's a little bassy. So it's fine. And it's also probably basic because it's got to be sitting, it's going to sit on your desk. I would not put it on the floor. It'd probably be unusable. I like to have it on my desk height. So there you go. And then a bunch of people are just commenting that they love their Spark. Yeah, it's a great thing. It was a lot cooler when it was cheaper. It's kind of raising up in price, and now it's it's a little pricey, but still cool. I have another Spark. I have the White Pearl. It's downstairs. I have that and the pedal, so you can foot switch it. They asked me, not Spark. Another company asked me if I would do this video about the foot switch and stuff. And then, I told you guys I was thinking about, doing the update and talking about what the update on the Spark is. So we'll see. We'll see how I do that and when I do that. Hopefully it'll be the end of next week. All right. On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend and play some guitar. And I'm going to do the same thing. So until next Friday, I'm just going to say thank you guys for your time. And until next Friday, know your gear.